Hello everyone, it's Fung here again. Today we'll be talking about the US government securities, and again the information is sourced from the book The Truth About Money. So getting started, we have two kinds of these securities: direct obligation of the US and bonds backed by agencies of the US. So starting with direct obligations, these include treasury bills, notes, and bonds, and the treasury basically provides money for the government and its use. And then we also have Government National Mortgage Association, also known as GNMA or Ginnie Mae, and these provide mortgages for home buyers. These two investments are backed by the full faith and credit of the US, meaning that they are safe from default risk. Now next are the bonds backed by agencies of the US, and this includes the Federal National Mortgage Association, also known as Fannie Mae. These provide money for mortgages. And there's also the Government National Mortgage Association, also known as Freddie Mac, and these also provide money for mortgages. Now these two things are backed partially, right, in partial faith and credit of the US, meaning that they are still safe from default risk, but they're not guaranteed safe, okay, like the other ones that I mentioned. Now let's talk about I-bonds. I-bonds are inflation-linked saving bonds. That's what I-bonds stand for. They are direct obligation, so backed by the full faith and credit, remember that. And they have two interest rates for up to 30 years, but these two interest rates include one fixed interest rate set for life of the entire investment, and another variable interest rate that changes every 6 months based on the consumer price index known as the CPI. And the CPI is essentially the nation's way of tracking inflation, the official way at least. And these I-bonds benefit from high inflation. That's because with higher inflation, you get that higher variable rate. So your money tracks the inflation, right? Now, there are all penalties and drawbacks when you redeem these early, and it's that you can't redeem for the first 12 months of your investment, and the interest earned gets a penalty if you try redeeming it in the first 2 to 5 years. Next, we're talking about the Treasury Inflation Protected Services, also known as TIPS. They're also a direct obligation, so backed by the full faith and credit of the US again. And instead, for this one, the principal rises or falls every 6 months based on the CPI. So now the principal tracks the inflation, not the interest rate. In fact, the interest rate here is fixed and set for life of the investment. So this also benefits from high inflation because a higher inflation level, right, higher CPI, means that the principal will raise, meaning that the interest you earn will increase despite having a fixed amount of interest, right? So these are essentially flip-flopped with I-bonds, right? So I have a table down here saying the security, so I-bonds and TIPS. The principal for I-bonds are fixed, while the principal for TIPS are variable. But however, the interest rate for I-bonds are part fixed and part variable, while the interest rate for TIPS are fixed. Next, we're going to be talking about the Ginnie Maes, and they are also a direct obligation of the US, right? And how Ginnie Maes work is essentially the government buys mortgages, then pools them in mortgages of the same face amount, interest rate, and maturity date, then splits up and divides these pools, selling them to investors while taking a portion of the profits, right, for themselves. So it's essentially like mini mortgage lenders, right? When you buy a Ginnie Mae, you're basically like a mortgage lender simulation of that, right? Except you're fully backed by the US, so it's much safer than being an actual renter, right? So as for the payments that you get, much like mortgage payments, the payments that you earn here are part interest and part principal. So do not forget that. So in many investments, you get your interest every month, right? Where you earn your interest, and then at the end of it, by the maturity date, you get your principal back. But in this case, you get your interest and principal monthly. So you have to be very cautious of that. And also, the life or duration of this investment is 12 to 15 years, despite the 30-year maturity, because mortgage loans are typically 30, right? And this is because many people sell their house or refinance their house. So then you could be getting even more money in a quicker time frame, right? So the smart decision to do here is to reinvest the principal that you get back every month so that you can really compound and snowball, get your money rolling, right? So to recap everything that we learned, direct obligation of the US, and there's bonds backed by agencies of the US. They're not the same thing. It depends on how much faith and credit that the US is putting in, right? Some have full faith, some have partial. And then I-bonds are inflation linked. They have two interest rates, one fixed, one variable, while TIPS are inflation linked as well, but they have one interest rate and a variable principal. Ginnie Maes are a way for you to become like a mini mortgage lender, and then you are paid every month, both paid interest and principal. So do not forget that. So that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, do what you will. And if you want to follow my journey, then yeah, keep watching these videos. Thanks for watching.